calculation in chess is super important. You and I have to get better at it. Calculating your moves, and there's one bonus tip that I'm going to give too. But I have 14 games here from my journey to 2000. It's day 54. I'm uploading every day. And what I noticed in a lot of these games, I lost a lot of them, even the games that I won. The mistakes I was making was because of laziness, from not calculating. And sometimes I was afraid to calculate certain things. So in this first game here, we see just some regular Italian game. And, you know, I'm expecting maybe the attack with the knight and the bishop. I always forget what it's called for some reason. And I know how to counter it. It happens in a game later on, but it doesn't happen. So I know these are all book moves. Here I take, he castles, and all of this looks fine. And here I don't take this free pawn because I'm thinking, okay, if I take the pawn and he attacks me, first of all, this is called a Scotch gambit, but if I take the pawn and he attacks me, how do I save that pawn? I can push this pawn forward, but then it's weakening my king. It just doesn't look like a good idea, and then I stopped. I stopped my calculation there. Well, maybe I thought also, okay, if he attacks with the rook, I can push like this, but then the bishop takes, then my queen takes, and my queen's going to get overloaded because it could get attacked, and then what do I do? Right? It turns out this is the best move, because after he does this, and you attack, and he takes, and you take back, let's say he tries to attack your queen this way, all you have to do is just move it back. And again, it looks scary, like the rook is kind of indirectly attacking your queen. What if the knight comes in and attacks? Well, actually, this is not as bad as it looks. Because if we count the piece material, we took a rook, a knight, and a bishop. And we lost our queen. So this is winning. We're up a piece, essentially, at the end of that calculation. But I didn't realize that because I was scared. I was too scared of losing my queen, right? The queen is the most powerful piece. I don't want to lose it. I was afraid of calculating that. And that actually ends up being how I lose the game. I push this pawn, and I'm expecting him to take, and I take it back. And, okay, you know, the game still looks pretty even, but I make a lot of mistakes because I just continuously fail to calculate. My bishop coming here to protect and stop the rook seemed like a good idea, but this is a one-move threat that becomes very hard to deal with. What happens if the knight comes in, right? I don't deal with that well. And the game progresses, and the point is, it doesn't even matter who wins or loses. The point is the types of mistakes and the reason why. And I think a lot, again, is because of not calculating. Like, I saw this as a potential threat in the future, but after this queen move, I thought my opponent did the most perfect move. I was scared of what I could do. I was looking at different lines. I was like, oh, well, you know, if I move my king aside, is that okay? If I take the rook, no, then my queen is going to be attacked. And I was calculating. But this goes to the bonus tip that I was going to share in this video, which is piece activity. So getting your inactive pieces active is super important. What's our most inactive piece in this scenario? Everything is developed. Our rook is staring over here. We have this rook staring into nothing. If we come here, it protects the d5 square, and you're still threatening to take his rook. So takes would probably happen, and this is, the game would continue, you know? If he takes, maybe you take with the knight, you take with the rook to make it a more active piece, right? You're threatening checkmate, for God's sakes. So all of these things are, you know, combining calculation, not being afraid to calculate, and also piece activity, I think, is very important. And in this game, for those that are curious, I just end up losing it. Okay, the second game, again, I was afraid of calculation. So we started this game and I thought, wow, I don't know if these are book moves. I don't know if this is correct, but this looks really cool. I feel like I could push this pawn forward. There are no threats on my king. This looks like I'm gaining so much space, right? I understood the position to be pretty well for me. I bring my knight out and the pawn is already pushed forward, right? This is an idea I started to learn by studying a little bit about the Vienna Gambit. Anyway, piece activity, right? I'm developing my pieces. Okay, this wasn't the best move, which we don't necessarily have to go for to talk about. But after all of this, we castle. Things look fine, and here, I'm sorry. It's not maybe about calculation, it's more about piece activity. What's a better way to capture this knight? There's 3 ways to capture it. Capture this pawn with the pawn doesn't look good, right? Because the king's safety is kind of threatened. The rook could come down on this open file later. It looks annoying. Capturing with the rook I thought was okay because then I could double my rooks. But is it making my queen more active? No, it's actually encasing it more, right? Which is why taking back with the queen is better. And you can see, look at the engine. It just sees such a different, like, it sees it as so much worse. Here, you know, he can't even attack with the rook because I just take. And it's just terrible for him, right? But I was kind of scared of if I took with the queen, the bishop comes out, and now where does my queen go? Apparently, I could go for a trade while targeting this pawn, and if we trade, the game continues. And it doesn't seem as scary without queens on the board, even though there are a lot of pieces looking this way. I don't do that. I take back with the rook. Also, how does this help piece activity? The previous move, right? I'm literally just pushing a pawn forward. So I was trying to prevent the knight from coming in, but I disregarded the other threats. And here, pushing pawns in front of the king, just a terrible idea. The game progresses, and it goes back and forth, to be honest, but again, piece activity. I'm trying to make my knight more active, but the queen is the most powerful piece, right? Here I'm threatening the knight. I'm threatening an annoying check to deal with, maybe winning this pawn in the future. I don't do that. This is how the game progresses, and at a certain point, I was afraid of calculation. When there's an endgame with an opponent's knight, I become afraid of calculation. I don't know the best way to deal with this knight. I see it can come here, threatening this pawn. I see that he could kick my knight out. And I see I could push this and attack. If I push, it forces him to go back. And then what? Right? I don't spend enough time calculating. And the idea here is that let's say he does come here, attacking the pawn. I could just push the pawn forward. And it's closer to promoting. That's it. That's it. I could even bring the knight back, protecting it. So a lot of silly mistakes from just being afraid of calculating can be stopped by calculating. Of course, there are certain things you'll only learn from playing games or from doing puzzles or whatever. And here, like, why did I do this move? It's a terrible move. He's can take this pawn, and this pawn's already going to get taken. But at this point, it was already too late. So my best move was to, play it differently. Make it so he can't target these pawns. I just didn't calculate it. And I end up, I think I end up losing this game. Yeah. Oh, I end up winning this game. No, I end up losing this. Anyway, third game, same thing. We get into this. I know all of those book moves. And I'm telling you, I was so proud in the Scotch game that I know all of these book moves. Right? I played this in 20 seconds because I know all these moves. I know they're book moves. And when my opponent plays the next best move, I'm thinking, okay, my pawn pushes forward. This is a common theme in the Scotch. I'm pretty sure. And this makes sense. And I'm aware of this threat, but I don't calculate enough. I just take. I take, and you know, I don't see this way of defending the bishop. This is a very weird move to do. It's hard to kind of put yourself in that line to do. But the point is, I just end up losing a pawn. Why am I pushing a pawn forward, right? I should be thinking about piece activity. I should be thinking about my king's safety. And I push a pawn forward trying to take out a bishop that can, just after some trades, pick up that pawn back. So, very simple, stupid mistake that I make. And I just make mistake after mistake, just moving pieces around. At a certain point, my opponent makes a mistake, and I have this powerful pin, and I win the game, but, it doesn't change the fact that I made a lot of mistakes. All right, let's go a little bit faster through this stuff. This game was crazy. This is from a Chess Vibes video, and he tells you how to counter this thing when they attack with the bishop and knight. The typical move is you move the knight to a5 to target the bishop. The way this is played, though, why can't I remember the name of it? Fried liver, the fried liver attack. This is how to counter the fried liver. I was remembering all these moves. I remembered this, I remembered this, I remembered this. And here, I have a mate in 2 on move 10 of the game against the 1500. I didn't think. I thought that my memorization was putting the knight here and checking and you win the queen. This is what I thought. It's not true. He can move the king aside. Even here, there's a way to checkmate. But what did I do? I didn't calculate. That's what I did because I was so confident that I was going to win. You know how you get checkmate here? You check. After he blocks, you have this beautiful... Well, no, you just give checkmate. That's it. And I didn't do that. So, I still had a mate thread here by checking. And I was trying to calculate, but I didn't. I couldn't figure it out. Checking, making my pieces more active, right? And if he's trying to run out to the center, I can just keep checking him. This comes in with the knight, right? Oh, this is some crazy stuff. Okay, you know what? Never mind. This is some hard stuff to calculate. Are you crazy, man? Jesus Christ. But the point being is I had a mate in 2 and I didn't see it because I just blitzed out the move thinking I win the queen like that. And I make mistake after mistake, and here I recognize the second after I make the move, I recognize, what am I doing? I could have had a discovered attack, making my piece active, right? I keep checking. I'm missing mates in 6, mates in 5, whatever. I miss a mate in 1 right here. Can you guys see the mate in 1? Well, okay, the engine helped, but this is the mate in 1, right? The rook stops everything, the knight just delivers the mate. I missed that. Because I'm getting aggravated. I'm like, no way is he escaping right now. And that's it. He gets away from all the threats. I'm lucky that my opponent made a mistake here. Even here I messed up. I'm lucky my opponent made a mistake because he could stop the pawn from progressing forward. And then I'm screwed. He doesn't do that. He attacks me instead and lets me get this check. And I get the checkmate. Even here, guys, I almost made the mistake of pushing the pawn. Which is still winning, but I'm just missing a checkmate. But thankfully I saw it. It's like, Jesus, that game became a 30-move game where I should have checkmated on move like 10 or 12 or whatever. That's craziness, right? Calculation. Here I push a pawn instead of making pieces more active, right? I don't want my knight to remain pinned. I just bring my queen to the side. I can develop my rooks. Instead, I push this pawn forward and I make it a target. And I'm down a pawn. And honestly, that's a big reason for why this game kind of goes crazy. And towards the end of the game, I even had chances to make it equal. But I flag my opponent and I win. Like, is that very satisfying? Not really. Right? Here we got simple stuff, man. Calculation. What does my opponent want to do? Why do I move it here? Don't be afraid to calculate, right? Every move you gotta calculate. This move, there's an easy harm, right? That's it. I lose my queen. And I resigned. This fixes everything, because now if he attacks, I have g3. Now he has 2 pieces hanging. His best move is to take, so one of his pieces don't hang, and then get his other piece to safety. And here I could castle, and the game continues. Very, very interesting, weird-looking game. I've been playing the Vienna more often. But if I'm playing an opening I especially don't know, I should calculate more, right? So bad. So bad. So bad. Again, get your pieces active, right? These are the 2 things I keep showing. And my plan here, maybe I want to fianchetto my bishop. Bro, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces pretty much at their starting squares. My opponent has 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces developed. Look at the difference between the engine. They're just saying, bro, what are you doing? You're not developing your pieces. And this blocks my bishop, but it protects my knight. And my bishop maybe could fianchetto later. Maybe not. But the point is, like, I have no piece activity. And I push this pawn forward. The engine says come here because you know what? If you trade, at least your knight comes out, right? And now you're developed-ish. You know, it's not perfect, but at least you're pretty much developed. No. I push my pawns. I'm bringing my queen out. You know what my plan here was, guys? My stupid plan was to bring a bishop here to try to threaten mate and get the knight out of the way. Like, what is that? What is that plan? I just completely disregard my opponent. Like, again, it's being afraid of it's being lazy and not calculating. I was lazy. I didn't think, I thought my plan could work without paying attention to what my opponent is doing. Like, even here, he could have just kicked my queen out with the knight. Look at that. All his pieces are getting in. Look at that discovered attack on my queen. Oh, just a terrible game. Terrible. And it's my fault, obviously. In chess, it's your fault when you make mistakes. And here, I just start playing fast, trying to go for some tricks. And I get mated. This one is a little harder to see, but look how unsafe I made my king. Like, I let him get a piece. I'm not threatening anything. I take a pawn, and then his queen comes in and just checkmates me. I didn't see this checkmate. Check, capture, threat. We went over that checklist the other day, right? Well, I gotta think of my opponent doing check, capture, threat. It's like, it's a combination of stuff, but I would say it's laziness of not calculating. Not calculating. Ay, ay, ay. This game is the Vienna. Again, he let me accept it, and I should have known I'm better here. It's interesting. It kind of reminds me of when you gambit the pawn and the bishop ends up winning it back. This allows you to protect it, right? And then if he comes here, or if he comes here trying to break it apart, you could literally just attack the knight. I didn't calculate. I calculated a little bit. I calculated the queen coming in. But I didn't think what to do with the knight. I actually thought about giving up the bishop, but I didn't want to give up a piece. I want to bring more pieces to the action, right? To attack. But the thing is, this knight is a threat. It's annoying. And listen, piece activity. Piece activity. Look at that. My rook's already getting into the game. I was so hung up on the fact that I wanted my bishop to check him. This in the game, I wanted my bishop to check and win the queen. It's like, I'm realizing this while talking right now during the video. It's not just calculation and piece activity, but it's, you can't ignore your opponent, right? These are things you need to do to get better in chess. You can't ignore your opponent. And I ignore my opponent. I go with my own plan, ignoring my opponent. And now how am I attacking his queen? I end up losing the bishop anyway, but now I'm more on the defensive instead of him. Luckily, he messes up. Now I bring more pieces into the battle, and he resigns. He resigns because there's just way too much. Knight is pinned. I'm attacking his queen. I have so many active pieces. His king is like on the defensive. My king is safe. And he resigns. Lazy calculation, man. Pause the video. Tell me what I messed up on here. He could just literally trap my bishop. And he does. Now, the game ends up being pretty interesting. But that was my big mistake. Like, what kind of mistake is that? There were other mistakes here, but that was the big one I wanted to talk about. Like, calculation. 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 Here's calculation again. I just lose a pawn. Like, and he didn't take it. But there are so many mistakes here, man. There are so many mistakes. Look. Look at this. I just, like, knights can come in. Come on. Knights can come in. How do I stop the knight from coming in and being super annoying? I don't know. Maybe the queen over here already is better. Just terrible, man. Terrible. Look at this. Look at this. And here I resign because I'm thinking, oh, this is fine. I'm smart. I push the pawn and my queen can protect. Oh, wait. My queen is pinned. I'm going to lose it. How do I save this position? Here, because of this. Now I have this at least. It's like, it's so bad. So bad. So bad. You could see the first few moves are book moves, and then it's just terrible. It's just terrible. Again, knights. Knights moving. It's calculate. One move thing. One move thing. You know what? I'm going to call this one not paying attention to what your opponent is doing. I revised what I said before. That's another bonus tip, right? But honestly, I think the biggest problem is just laziness. I don't know. Here again, afraid of calculation. Why am I afraid of calculation? Because I'm afraid of this. Hello? My bishop covers that square. Why am I afraid of calculation? Because I'm afraid of this. Let's say I saw that. I would have seen this. Now what? My bishop covers. Everything is fine and I'm winning. I just got a bishop for free. Well, it's a little tricky. It's not easy, but I'm winning. I don't do that. I don't do any of that. And I play pretty passively, and the game becomes pretty interesting. I force a trade, and because my opponent is, I don't know, misses some stuff, I'm able to push this pawn unabated, which doesn't make sense. I shouldn't have been able to. And he messes up a king move, and finally, thank God I calculate this. Just simple stuff, but, you know, so I don't get the draw. Woo! Okay, we're gonna speed through the rest of these. I go into the Danish gambit, because I know taking is better here. And I know I have to be careful. I know I have to be careful, yet I'm not careful. I don't castle here. My queen is gonna get attacked. Here, I was not afraid, when I should have been afraid. Like, I let his... Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. Look at this. I'm letting his pieces come in and attack my king, and my bishop blocks the e7 square. Looking at it, it's just... Oof. Sometimes when you have a bad day, it's easy to blame the circumstances or something, but it's like, you just didn't calculate. Maybe your brain was tired, you didn't calculate. And here I thought I was pretty clever with this move to stop the king's advancement. I saw that in puzzles before. This is the last game. I was really proud of this. It just stops the king from going anywhere. Look at that. It's beautiful. And look, I'm bringing my king in. Look at this. I calculated all of this. Look at that. Oh, look at that. And after this pawn move, he can't. Look at this. He has no access to this. That's insane. This was so cool. And this was my last game. I'm ranked 1521 now. And yeah, if you watch this far, just write calculation in the comments. Thank you for watching and have a good one. Bye bye.